Good morning. I have something extra special to share today. You have been asking me questions through little emails and direct messages, and yesterday there was one that came in that resonated so deeply with me, and I've been sitting with it all day that I'm going to share it here. I've asked her if I can, and I'm going to share it here because I think it's something that so many of us deal with, and I know I have a lot of experience with, and I'd love to share my experience of this problem. And I'm going to put it in quotes because it's actually not a problem. So here's what Tracy wrote in on Instagram. I feel I'm blocked from moving forward artistically until I start carving this cedar, which has been gifted to me. So thank you, Tracy, for being brave to share that question with me and with all of us. And I have quite a bit to say about blockages. As an artist, I've had so many blockages in my life. I've come up against it so many times, and I used to see it as a really bad thing. I used to think, like, how can I always be producing, and how can I get myself so that I'm always in the flow, and how can I make sure that I'm never struggling with being blocked. Being blocked is bad, 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 bad. And I remember a time when I was in my early 20s, and I did a lot of painting at the time. That was kind of the thing that I was doing then. And I approached a gallery in Ottawa where I lived and asked them. I was so naive. I had no idea what normally is involved in getting a gallery to take you on. But I went in with all my work, and I showed the gallery manager, and they were so excited about my work that right there on the spot, they're like, yes, we would love to do a show for you. We'll take care of all the expenses. We'll get the people here. We'll do all, the wine and cheese and all that. And here's the terms of the commission and all that. And I walked out of there elated and devastated at the same time, because I felt this terror that what was going to happen, because I knew that I'd get blocked because I'd experienced it a million times before, and what would happen when this gallery wanted more of my work and I just couldn't do it. And my 20-something-year-old self got so scared that I completely shut down, and I never called them back, and I never answered their calls, and I didn't even paint again for probably another 15 years. It just scared me so much. This like, what if I can't do it? And fast forward now, I'm in my early 40s, and I have a really different relationship with blockages now, and that is that they're usually not what we think they are. Or they're usually not what we think they're about. In this case, I see that maybe a story, maybe not, but maybe a story has been created around it's this particular piece of wood that needs to be done before the block can get undone, or I don't know exactly what the story is you've created about it, or what any of the stories are that we create about any of the times that we're blocked. But it seems pretty clear to me that whenever we create a story, or whenever we have a story like that about being blocked, it is just not, it's not true. And here's why it's not true. Blockages, they're kind of a bad word. They've got a negative association. They're bad, right? Like, I'm blocked, I'm stuck, I can't do this. And I think that's because we don't really understand what stopping is about. And our creativity, if you're a writer, or if you're a jeweler, or a painter, or a chef, or a school teacher, or whatever you are, actually, you need creativity in your life. That's the force. It's what makes life go. That's where life expresses itself through all of us. And we simply can't be on all the time. And that it's not you doing it. When you get inspired to write a certain thing, or when you feel the urge to paint, or create whatever it is that you create, a certain recipe, or invent something, that comes from a different part of you. It's not coming from your mind, right? That doesn't come from your mind gets involved because it's a wonderful tool for helping us create things, but that kind of inspiration, the muse, the flow, the activation comes from a different part of us. And we're not in control of that part of us. And that's really scary for us, I think. And so when that stops, or when that needs to rest, we resist it. We're like, no, we need to be creating. Come on. And so my question for you today is, what if, when we're blocked or stopped, when we're not doing, when that creativity isn't flowing, what if something really important and critical to the process of creativity itself is happening? And what if we're interrupting that by trying to force our blockage to stop? And I'll give you a sort of a parallel for our everyday lives. You get up in the morning and you make your breakfast and you have your tea and you go about your day and you do the things you need to do. And sometimes you're moved by the creative spirit and sometimes you're not, but you get the kids fed, or you get yourself fed if you don't have kids, and you go to your job and you do all the things that you need to get done. And then at the end of the day, you brush your teeth and you wash your face and you hop into your pajamas and you get into bed and you get all snuggled up and you go to sleep. And while you're sleeping, this whole other army of things comes up in your body, and all the cells come and they sweep out all the disease and they repair tissues that need to be repaired. Your immune system goes into bigger overdrive and starts to fight off anything that's I'm not a scientist, but I know that there's so much important stuff defragging in your brain, and sleep is such an important part of life. We can't literally live without it. And so the parallel, I think, in the waking life is, creativity also needs that kind of rest. We need to give it that kind of rest. And so when we're in a block, what if we thought about, what can I do to support this invisible process that I don't know is happening, that's under the surface? What can I do to support that, to just get the rest it needs and get and nurture it so that when it wakes up, it's even fresher and even brighter? It's kind of the same as what if you were constantly setting an alarm every night, to wake yourself up. I shouldn't sleep. I shouldn't be sleeping. I should be doing more. I should be creating things. Like your system would just kind of fall apart, right? So when we go to bed, we try to make sure our pillows are comfortable and our blankets are warm and we're in cozy clothes and we're, the temperature in the room is right. Like we support ourselves to get the rest that we need so that we can have the health that we need and have the brain function that we need. And so I guess around blockages, what if we honored them as an important part of the creative process and of our beings? And when I started to do that, my whole relationship with creativity and blockages just changed. So when I feel blocked now, I just honor it. I'm just like, oh, it needs to rest. It needs to stop. And how can I help it do that? And, if I feel like it's going on a little bit too long, or that there's a kind of dysfunctional quality about it. Like sometimes I can get into like a little bit of, I've got negative thoughts coming in, or there's something else going on. I'm not just resting. It's not just a run-of-the-mill garden variety necessary and useful block resting time. Then I can start to do some things like I'll go to my studio and I'll just have a really good cleanup. I don't feel like creating anything, but I'm past the point of where the block did its thing and I need to move and I don't know what to do. I'll just go and I'll go through my materials and I'll find out what wants to be in the studio and what doesn't, and I'll give things away, or I'll just have a really good tidy up, organize things, look at my tools. What have I outgrown? What do I not need? What do I need? Kind of take stock of that. And I find that it's almost like, have you ever taken apart a ball of wool, like had a ball of wool that got really knotted up, or a necklace chain that got really knotted up? And if you kind of try to pull at it from the center and really go for try to get the knot out quickly and hard, it kind of gets tighter. But if you can put it down on the table and just kind of like slowly create space for it to breathe, you can start to see where the tangles are and pull it apart a little bit more slowly. I find that's what's kind of like cleaning the studio is about. So if you're a writer, maybe you would just go through all of your papers and get rid of things that don't work for you anymore, or organize your files on your computer. If you're a chef, that might mean taking stock of what ingredients maybe have gone off and are no good anymore. I mean, you get the point, right? It's just like clean up your space. Do what you can to support so that when that creativity wakes up again, it has this beautiful, inspiring space to work in. Because the reality is creativity and that flow and that muse and that life force isn't something that we're in control of. You can't strategize your way out of a block. You can't invent the perfect story to then undo so that your block ends. It may or may not be about this piece of wood that needs to be carved. That it's quite possible that that's a story that you've created to help you understand the discomfort of the blockage. It may just be that you just need to be with the stillness and with the block right now and trust that maybe something is happening that you don't know underneath the surface. So that's what I wanted to share with all of you today about being blocked. Embrace it, because sometimes you just need to rest. and you can't stop it anyway. Creativity is something that comes to you as a gift, and just be ready for it when it arrives, and nurture it and trust that it knows what it's doing, because it knows what it's doing more than we do, more than this does. Anyway, okay, I'm going to pull something out of the basket today for you beautiful people. What have we got here? It's another bee. I feel like we just did bee the other day. I must have had 2 in here. This is an oxidized bee. That's right. The other day we did a frosted silver bee, and this one is an oxidized bee. This one's a little edgier. It has a really beautiful patina, so you can really see all the little details on the wings and on the body. And for those of you who haven't seen, this is quite a nice hefty piece. It's got a really good weight to it. And when it goes down to the 50% off, which it only will do if it ever comes out of this basket, it's actually an incredible deal. I mean, they're all really good deals, but this is a particularly good one. This is one of our best-selling, most sought-after pieces, I think, of all time in the collection that I've made. And so I'm excited. I'll take a picture of that and put it on there. And then since we're doing these readings, let's grab the deck. I was looking at these yesterday too at the studio, and you can use them on their own. I really just love sometimes pulling a card and treating it almost like those angel decks or like a tarot deck, and just finding out what it has to say to you. Communication, cooperation, and self-discovery. So as it relates to blockages, today, let's look at bees and medicine from the state of blockages. So how can communication, cooperation, and self-discovery relate to the allowing of being blocked? How can you allow yourself to be blocked, and how do the elements of communication, cooperation, and self-discovery, how can that serve you today? And then the message here is allow the bee to remind you of some way in which you might be trying to do something all on your own, when allowing another to help you might lead you both down a more advantageous path. So in particular, Tracy, since we're talking about your question, I wonder if that resonates for you at all. You know, is there a way that you can involve somebody else in your art right now that may help you to sort of get those juices flowing again? I'd love to find out. I'd love to hear if that resonated for you. And yeah, once again, guys, I really want to share this with a growing group of people, because I feel like I get so much amazing feedback from you about how these little videos are speaking to your soul, and how you're appreciating them, and how they're moving you, and how they're inspiring your creativity. And I am so happy that that is doing that for you. And so I'd like for that to be available to more people. So like these posts, and please share them. It does make a huge difference when you share them. And if you're on YouTube, you just subscribe to the Love Morning Moon page. And if you have questions, please feel free to send them in. I will always check with you first if it's one that I feel I'm in a place I can answer. I won't just go out and say your question without talking to you. But we can, if you have a question for the deck or for any of the elements in here, then I'd be so honored to hear it from you. And have a wonderful, creative or not creative day.